The Return of the Living Dead is one of the best zombie movies ever made, in my opinion, and I'm quite confident a lot of people share that opinion with me. With each passing year, it seems to gain more of a fan base, more of a following, more reverence, more respect, whatever you want to call it, which is fantastic because it really does deserve every bit of love that it gets. Because it in and of itself it is this love letter to the zombie genre, and in particular, I guess, Night of the Living Dead. While maybe the title kind of suggests it might be a sequel, that's of course not the case. It does propose that Night of the Living Dead is based on a true story. So it kind of has fun with the whole genre, and in kind of a tongue in cheek kind of way, because, well, you can definitely call this a satire of, the whole zombie concept. It does it in a way where it does look and feel just like any other zombie movie, but it presents its tropes and cliches in such an exact kind of way, with such a precise kind of tone, that you start to realize kind of what the joke is, and how they're kind of presenting this story, which is more all in good fun. Like, it's not a scary movie, it is a funny movie, it's a horror comedy, it is a satire, but not like a really obvious kind of satire in the vein of something like Shaun of the Dead, which is like a really kind of precise deconstruction, right? This one, it kind of just suggests to you that we're having a lot of fun. So that's kind of what I like about it. It is kind of under the guise of any other zombie movie that you might see, but you realize that it's a lot more clever, a lot more funny than your average fare within this kind of genre. It's, of course, brought to us from the legendary Dan O'Bannon, one of the founding fathers of Alien. And, of course, you also may recall he did a film prior to Alien, kind of a proto Alien kind of film, Dark Star, directed by John Carpenter, which was definitely more of a B movie, definitely more of a comedy. This one follows in that tradition, so it's back to those roots with O'Bannon, with a vengeance, with the Return of the Living Dead, and that's absolutely great. It's a fantastic film. So while it isn't, again, it's not a sequel to the Night of the Living Dead, it does make some hints towards it. And I think even John A. Russo, who wrote Night of the Living Dead, he came up with the title, and like he like gets like a credit as one of the story a story editor, story writer, basically. But it is mainly Dan O'Bannon at the helm of this. Very, simple kind of plot. Basically, we have this young kid, Freddy. He's starting a new job in this medical supply warehouse, and he's getting shown the ropes and stuff. And that's when his new boss, he suggests that, well, he asks him, what's the creepiest, weirdest thing you saw in this place? Like, hey, you ever see that movie Night of the Living Dead? Well, kiddo, that was based on a true story. We have these tanks in the basement. They're, full of these uh, zombie bodies. Well, they never use the word zombie, but it was a government experiment, stuff like that. So he goes on to explain, the army had this chemical 5,3,4 trioxin, something like that, that they were originally using for like spraying on marijuana or something like that in the 60s, and then it lets loose on bodies and has them flopping around and alive and stuff. But as you may expect to happen in this film, those tanks get broken open, and the kind of chemical is released, and that's what kind of starts the carnage. And coinciding with this young kid, Freddy, he has his kind of group of friends, these very over the top teenage delinquents who are kind of waiting for him. Like, his girlfriend's within the group too, and he still has some time before he's off work and things like that. Like, man, what are we gonna do? Wait this whole time? Oh, hey, look over there. There's a cemetery. We can go in there. All in unison groaning. So very kind of on the nose kind of stuff. And as this chemical is released, and one of the cadavers in the supply warehouse, it comes to life, and like some of the dogs too. Like, they have these veterinarian kind of half dog split in half to, like, see the anatomy and all that. They're all coming to life. They try to get rid of them, and they burn them up in the crematorium. It evaporates into the sky, it rains, it goes into the graveyard, and corpses start coming out of the graves, and zombies are everywhere, and that's basically the plot of the movie. So, pretty straightforward in terms of plot, but it's the little things, it's the little details that are very winning in this film. Because, I don't know, when you think of a zombie movie, or just like zombies in general, you kind of do have this idea in your head, like, like the half rotting, limping kind of corpse kind of thing, and kind of what we always think, at least in some cases, we always think of them like running around going, brains, brains, things like that. Though, when you think about it, when you like watch other zombie movies, like some of the more famous ones, they don't really do that. But guess what? They do that in this movie. In fact, they're very focused on the brains, where with other zombie movies, you'll see that they kind of like go for just human flesh in general, right? And they'll like bite someone's arm or neck or whatever, and that'll like infect the people and things like that. But here, with the Return of the Living Dead, the zombies crying out for brains, they specifically want those brains, and we do kind of learn later on when they interrogate one of the rotting corpses, they figure out what this fixation on brains really is, and essentially what the whole deal is with that is that to be a zombie, to be the living dead, it's an extremely painful experience. Like the corpse says, I can feel myself rotting, stuff like that. But when eating a human brain, it relieves that pain, at least temporarily, at least for a brief time. But like any kind of junkie or whatever like that, they have to go more and more and more and more and more, get that fix, right? So I thought that was a really interesting aspect to the genre. We don't see that every day. We just see kind of zombies like chomping on people left and right with no real sense of why they're doing it. But here we get a sense of at least a little bit of why they're after brains specifically. So I thought that was great. And of course, another kind of trope that it's kind of does a little bit of a switch on is that in other zombie movies, really they're kind of easy to take down, right? You lop off their head, you decapitate them, or you shoot them in the brain. As long as you destroy the brain of the zombie, I think that's basically what the commonly held belief is. But here, you can chop them into pieces. You can do whatever you can, but they're still up and running. Like, so there's like limbs all about, and the only way to really get rid of them is to like burn them up completely. But that, of course, causes more problems and causes the chemical to release into the air and create more zombies, stuff like that. So I thought it was really well done, and of course there's some superb, uniquely 80s special effects in this film. There's definitely gore, but it's not like a over the top gore fest or anything like that, though it definitely has a respectable amount. And maybe like the centerpiece of the film is the Tar Man zombie, the guy originally in the containment tank. So he comes out and he's all black and gloopy and limping around and things like that. A great effect and a really memorable zombie in this film. And not to mention the great cast. I mean, here, since it is a comedy, your hope is that all the players involved kind of have a consistent comedic tone, which they do, which they absolutely do. Like it feels like, you could almost feel a little bit like relatable to this movie, and in that the boss character, he's trying to cover his ass, even as it's like getting completely out of control, completely absurd and terrifying, things like that. Oh, no, we can't we can't let people know about this. It'll be really bad for business and stuff like that. So I thought that was all great. Highlight for me, Clu Gulager, who's brilliant. He's kind of the main boss of the warehouse, and he's the one kind of trying to come up with these plans and things like that. Absolutely brilliant. Tom Matthews from who you may remember as Tommy Jarvis, actually, from the sixth Friday the 13th film, Jason Lives. Also, another kind of a movie with like a similar sense of humor to this. Actually, he's great playing Freddy, and James Karen playing Frank, the kind of like middle boss. He's just terrific. He's absolutely great, and all the delinquent teens, they're great too. And of course, the standout has to be Linnea Quigley, woman of my dreams, the quintessential '80s horror babe, right? Playing a kind of punk rock goth sort of girl named Trash, who's very funny, and of course has to get like stark naked in the movie and dance around and stuff like that. Not that I'm complaining or anything like that, but even that is like it's not like done in like a sexualized kind of way. It's just done in a funny way. Like they're all like, "Oh God, she's doing it again! God, put some light over here," and things like that. So very funny. And she herself, she has this kind of interesting arc where she has a fixation with death, and she has a fixation with being grabbed and torn apart by creepy old men in a way where maybe she'll get that desire. I don't want to go too much into spoilers with this movie, but not everybody standing at the beginning of this film is going to stay that way as it reaches toward its end, right? So yeah, I won't give too much away, but it's a very entertaining movie. Like in the event that you haven't seen this movie, if say you are a fan of zombie movies, of horror movies, particularly horror comedies, particularly horror zombie comedies, this one is an essential. You have to check it out. It's absolutely brilliant. And I think it's a lot more clever than what may initially meet the eye, because one person may see this movie as just your average kind of zombie movie, but then another person may look into it a little bit deeper and appreciate kind of the comedic tone to it and the satirical tone to it, which I think kind of the best thing about it is that it isn't so obvious, that it does look and feel like any other zombie movie, and it is as good as any other zombie movie, but it's heightened by just a little bit extra, a little bit extra tender love and care went into this, which I credit the incredible cast. I credit Dan O'Bannon for that, and I guess the stars just aligned for this movie. It's a true classic. Again, one of the best zombie movies ever made. Personal favorite of mine. A Halloween tradition to watch this film. So that's my review of The Return of the Living Dead. I love it, and I love Linnea Quigley. So thank you very much for watching 31 Days of Horror. Plenty of more horror reviews to come. Stay tuned for more, and until next time, I'll see you later.